I can't wait for Daddy to hand over the company to us.
The man who destroyed Unity Traders was sitting at the table every single day, eating, smiling, watching, and no one suspected him until it was too late. In the bustling streets of Lagos, where the humidity clings to your skin like a second cloth, the name Unity Traders was a legend. It was a company built on the sweat of their late father, Taiwo Kehinde. When the old man died, he didn't just leave them money, he left them a legacy of honesty. Taiwo, the elder twin, was the engine of the empire. He was the type of man who arrived at the warehouse before the sun woke up. He knew the sound of every truck's engine. He could look at a mountain of cocoa bags and tell you if one was missing. He didn't care for the expensive Italian suits or the flashing lights of the Lagos nightlife. His joy was in the growth. He treated the company like a child that needed to be protected. He remained single, telling his friends that he had no time for a wife until he had secured the future of his brother's children. He loved Kehinde with a blind, ancient love. The kind of love that doesn't see red flags because it is too busy looking for ways to be kind. But Kehinde was a different man. Kehinde was the face that the world saw. He loved the Asoebi parties, the expensive champagne, and the roar of the crowd when he stepped out of his SUV. He enjoyed the fruit of the tree, but he hated the dirt on the roots. To the world, they were a perfect team. But inside the mansion Kehinde shared with his wife Ronke, a different story was being written.
Ronke was a woman of high taste and low mercy. She didn't look at Taiwo as a brother-in-law. She looked at him as a wall. To her, every Naira Taiwo reinvested into the business was a Naira stolen from her wardrobe. She began to weave a web of resentment around her husband's heart. Every evening, when the Lagos traffic was at its loudest, Ronke's voice was a quiet poison in their bedroom. She would point at the new cars their friends were buying and ask Kehinde why he was still sharing his life with a brother who treated him like a junior staff. She planted the idea that Taiwo was secretly keeping the real money for himself. She made Kehinde believe that Taiwo's silence was actually a sign of hidden evil. Slowly, the bond of the womb began to fray. Kehinde started watching his brother, not with love, but with suspicion. When Taiwo brought home a new contract, Kehinde didn't see a victory for the family. He saw another way for Taiwo to control him. The serpent in Kehinde's heart was no longer sleeping. Ronke had woken it up, and it was hungry. The opportunity for destruction came in the form of a massive government contract, the kind of deal that happens once in a generation. Taiwo spent months in the shadows, calculating, negotiating, and building a strategy that was perfect. He kept the documents in a safe, telling Kehinde that this was the final key to their total freedom. But that night, under the cover of a heavy Lagos rainstorm, Kehinde did the unthinkable. With Ronke standing over him like a dark spirit, he opened that safe. He took the secrets of his own blood and sold them to their father's greatest rival, Mr. Desmond of Predator Logistics. He sold the sweat of his brother for his suitcase of cash and the promise of a seat at a table that wasn't his. The day of the collapse was silent. There was no shouting, just the sound of a dream breaking. When the contract was awarded to the rival company, using Taiwo's exact numbers, Unity Traders began to bleed out. The banks called in the loans, the trucks were seized, the workers who had served their father for 20 years were sent home with empty hands. Taiwo sat in his empty office, looking at the dust on the floor. He didn't know yet that his own twin was the architect of his ruin. He cried not for the money, but for the shame of failing his father's name. It was then that Chief Adeyemi, a man who saw through the smoke, came to him. He told Taiwo the truth. He showed him the evidence of Kehinde's meetings with the rival. The pain Taiwo felt was not a sharp cut, it was a slow freezing of his soul. He didn't confront Kehinde, he didn't scream, he simply took the ticket Chief Adeyemi offered him. He left for London with nothing but a small bag and a heavy heart, leaving the wreckage of his life behind for the vultures to finish.
For a while, Kehinde and Ronke lived like royalty. They thought they had won. But the money they got from the betrayal was like salt water. The more they drank, the thirstier they became. Without Taiwo's brain to run the business, the money began to disappear into bad investments and Ronke's endless greed. Then the EFCC arrived. The rival company, having used Kehinde to destroy Taiwo, had no more use for him. They leaked the details of his illegal dealings to the authorities. The world watched as the golden boy of Lagos was led away in handcuffs. All the cars were gone. The mansion was sealed. And Ronke, the woman who had whispered the plan into his ear, didn't stay to visit him in the cell. She didn't stay to comfort him. She packed her bags and left before the first night was over, telling the world she was a victim of her husband's crimes. Kehinde was left with nothing but the four walls of a prison cell and the ghost of the brother he had murdered in his heart. While Kehinde was eating the bitter bread of regret, Taiwo was rising like a phoenix in the cold air of London. With the help of Chief Adeyemi's connections and his own brilliant mind, he built a new empire in the world of global logistics. He became a man of great wealth, but more importantly, a man of great peace. He never remarried, choosing instead to find his family in the people he helped. He became a silent benefactor to orphans in Nigeria, sending money back home through Chief Adeyemi, but always with the condition that his name must never be mentioned. He lived a life of quiet dignity, his face finally free of the shadow of his twin. One day, Chief Adeyemi called him to say that Kehinde was sick in prison and had no one to pay for his medicine. Taiwo paused for a long time. He didn't say yes immediately. He felt the old pain stir in his chest. But then he remembered their father's face. He sent the money for the hospital bills, but he sent a message with it. Tell him the bill is paid, but the debt to the womb can never be settled in this lifetime.
As we end this story, look around you. Look at the people you call brothers and sisters. Look at the voices you allow to whisper in your ear at night. Greed is a beautiful garment, but it has no warmth. It will look good on you in the sun, but it will freeze you to death in the winter. Kehinde gained a suitcase of money and lost a brother who would have died for him. He followed the voice of a woman who loved his pocket but hated his person. The world will tell you to get ahead at any cost, but the cost of betraying your own blood is a price that no bank account can ever cover. Taiwo lost his company, but he kept his soul. Kehinde kept the money for a moment, but he lost his life forever. In the end, we all return to the dust. The only thing we take with us is the love we gave and the trust we didn't break. Subscribe to catch the next tale before it fades.